in, and I think we're live again. There you are. Ta-da! Just a bump and a ruffle, just a rough and a bumple. Chicago. I'm hoping they hear us. I think they are. So, I have no idea why it would just drop off. Then I wish it was something I could solve, and yet it's simply madness. It's simply just the crazy pants world of the internet. Now, where was I, Johnny Million?
You said that you were or I was a working stiff, so I didn't catch all of the intricacies.
Right. Well, I was wondering if you did, and I was curious, as it were, as to what parts of the trial had stuck out to you this week. Because for me, I felt like I was overwhelmed this week. There was just the volume of idiocy out of that trial between his lawyers, what he said about the freezing courtroom, David Pecker, and just his name being hilarious.
Yeah, it is definitely fire hose level. I remember. I think I also heard some arguments of the Supreme Court case too, which were kind of
Oh,
jarring.
well, yeah, and we talk about often the sort of the from the sublime to the ridiculous in terms of this insanity that we have to deal with, and for all practical purposes, the Trump trial around the hush money, which is again not about hush money, it's about election interference. You know, when Trump says this is all about election interference, he's right. It is true. It is about election interference. It's not about Joe Biden interfering with this election. It's about Donald Trump interfering in the election, in the primary season against the other Republicans, and then in the election against Hillary Clinton by hiding these stories and having David Pecker run stories against his rivals, particularly Ted Cruz, linking him to the JFK assassination and a myriad of affairs, that kind of stuff. So not only did they run this catch and kill story, but they were also running sort of standard Inquirer BS stories in an attempt to destroy or at least knock down people he viewed as real opponents. And I guess to some degree, maybe Ted Cruz should be a little flattered that he got attention in this that I guess Jeb Bush did not. Yes? Jeb Bush didn't get any hooker stories. Jeb Bush didn't get linked to any, JFK assassination plots. So, so Ted Cruz got the extra primo treatment in that regard. But so this it is a serious trial. It is seriously about election interference. This is about engaging with the press. And again, this goes back to the founding of the country. The maggots like to talk about the founding fathers and the Federalist Papers and all that kind of stuff, right? But what they don't like to talk about is the fact that Donald Trump is engaging in exactly the kind of stuff that they accuse Biden and the Democrats of doing by controlling the media and all that, right? So Donald Trump was creating at that time, at least he thought, his own version of state media. He had a friend, an industry friend, a fellow oligarch, if you want to look at it that way, in a particular area that had guaranteed shelf space for whatever level you think about people meeting, or people actually buying the paper or reading it themselves. In the case of the Inquirer, it has automatic shelf space in every grocery store all over the country. So whether you read it or not, the cover has an impact. That's the point. It's like little billboards. Think of it this way. He got all these free miniature billboards attacking his opponents and promoting him. And in some cases, keeping things that would attack him out of the headlines. It's crucial
and this is it's putting a spotlight on something that a lot of people didn't know happened.
Yeah, and especially around the area where as a country, one of the reasons why we have freedom of the press is so that the specifically the politically connected, but the powerful cannot just automatically control the means by which people get information. And now we've got hundreds of sources and whatnot, so every little bit is your way is almost more important, pushing your way through the den. We are back to almost the same leverage matrix that we had when there were only 3 networks, in that anybody who can give you an edge it qualifies in that. And AMI is one of those areas. Like, it pushed you to the front. You didn't have to buy all these billboards. You didn't have to run ads criticizing the people who were coming out against you, because you had all these mini billboards at every grocery store in the country taking down your opponents and guaranteeing nothing but good stories about you. And
yeah, they were buying those stories themselves out of their own pocket.
Right. So in the case of the Ted Cruz stuff or whatever, they would it would be worth circulation to the number of people who would pick up something like that, and Trump and his buddies would kind of like send stuff their way. And then on the other hand, and be the source on it, be the fake source on it. And then in the case of the Trump stories, these would be moneymakers. This is the big thing that David Pecker talked about this week, was that these would be huge moneymakers for the network, or for the paper itself, for AMI in general, if they had these things, because he's the candidate for president. He's running against the first woman president. These kind of stories would be not only newsworthy, but also crucial to selling a lot of papers, and they scuttled them anyways. They lost money on purpose. So you've got 2 situations where Donald Trump is benefiting, getting effectively what's a contribution in kind to his campaign from AMI and specifically David Pecker, both. One where they are buying up these stories and killing them, which is this, it's a direct cash to cash exchange in that regard. We'll buy this, hide it for a little while, and you can pay us back after the election's over. So it's effectively a loan to the campaign if they ever got paid back in the first place. And the other one, of course, is all the free ads, both for him and against his opponents, that he got, that they paid for. They bought all these mini billboards all over the country for him. AMI, spent what's effectively the modern equivalent of, tens of millions of dollars promoting Donald Trump and denigrating his enemies during the 2016 election. And he was personally engaged in that process. And the guy who ran the Inquirer was personally engaged with him in this endeavor. That is exactly why the founding fathers wanted us to have a free press, and why the idea of state media, like Channel 1 or whatever in Russia or whatever, is anathema, or CGTV or CCTV in China is anathema to the very concept of America. And it's the irony that the Republicans always want to go after NPR, National Public Radio, as an outlet for kind of generic news, and the idea that it's somehow woke because it believes in equal rights for people, that this is a big problem with them. I mean, there have been a ton of stories about NPR lately from the right saying, it's overrun with woke and you can't trust anybody and blah, blah, blah. While none of them are complaining about the fact that under the table, Donald Trump was creating his own version of state media. Between Fox, Newsmax, OAN, RSBN, and the Inquirer, the idea was create your own single source of news for your followers, and then direct all your news through those primary sources to artificially lift them up. So give exclusives to networks that only you want to have, that so that everybody has to cite them, so that it raises their subscription rate, raises their visibility. Right. So, and then in the case of, eventually with him being a greedy moron, is of course funding Truth Social that way. That eventually it'll just be my own thing. If you want to quote me, you have to quote from my site. And if you want that access, you're eventually going to have to be bottlenecked through a paywall. We got to take a break. We'll come back right after this, now that we've got some sort of semi-consistency in the live stream, I hope. Let us know. Chat room, hi, how are you? We'll be back right after this. And I'm going to assume we are going to break as if, just like
Now,
that.
Devin said that we can't hear them because.
It'll feed back.
Can you hear me, Hal?
Yeah, I hear you. Yes.
Yeah. Devin said the problem, Hal cannot see or hear me since I'm not in the show.
Right.
I don't know what
Well,
that means.
what it means is, hold on, I will add him to the right. Boom. There's WCPT, and they'll be able to hear. We'll be able to hear them now. We just can't, like, they're
Yeah, we're
just,
in break.
Okay, cool. We should be able to hear audio from them anyway. Now I'm back. Now we'll see if Johnny